like to share with you the books that I'm planning to read for a couple of readathons that are coming up in the next couple of weeks. So firstly, we have the Tome Topple, which is a readathon all about reading books greater than 500 pages, those big chunkers. And the other readathon is the Because We Can readathon, which also has video challenges, which I'm not sure I'm going to be organized or motivated enough to do. But I do want to at least cover the reading prompts. And the Because We Can readathon is kind of like nested inside the Tome Topple readathon. So I've tried to make my TBRs for the two readathons overlap. I'm not really sure how it's going to work out, but we'll try. Also, some of these books are ones that I picked at the start of the month as part of my TBR machine pick. But now that I've aligned the books with the prompts, I've also added a couple of extras. So let's start with going through the Tome Topple prompts. The Tome Topple has a bingo board, and it's really up to you whether you want to do the prompts or not. The main goal is just to read big books, which I have 5 that I've picked, and I think I've managed to align them with 6 of the prompts because you're allowed to use a book for 2 prompts. The first prompt is the tome on your TBR with the most pages, and I double checked, and the golden key, which I picked for my TBR this month, is the longest one, coming in at 1074, but that is some kind of character list, I think. I think it's 1071 pages, so this is a lot of work. I don't actually know anything about the story of it, to be honest. I just know it's by Melanie Ron, Jennifer Roberson, and Kate Elliott, who are all authors that I have enjoyed their work before, and also I picked this up for $1 from the thrift shop, so why not? Like, per page, that is a very low cost. Less than a cent per page? Is that right? Very cheap. So that's my first tome. Then the next prompt is to read a tome from a series. For this prompt, I'm going to pick up the 3rd book of the Diviners series by Liv Bray, which is Before the Devil Breaks You. This is a paranormal murder mystery type series. I haven't necessarily loved the first 2 books, but I'm going to continue the series and see where we go. I did like the 2nd book slightly more than the 1st book, so maybe the 3rd book will be slightly better again. Then the next prompt is the tome that's been on your TBR the longest, and honestly, I don't even know what that is, and I don't care. I don't think it's either of the tomes that I've picked off my TBR shelves, and I don't want to pick any more thick books off my TBR shelves because there's already too many. So I'm just not going to do that prompt. I'm also not going to do the next prompt, which is to read a tome from a genre you don't usually read, because I just don't want to read a big fat book of a genre I don't like. So, not doing it. Then we have just the generic prompt of read 1 tome. For this, I'm going to count The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. This is the first book of the Gentleman Bastards series, which I have been meaning to get to. I know a lot of people love it. It follows a band of thieves, and that's all I really know. I'm just going into a lot of these quite blind, but I'm excited to finally get to this since so many people love it. The next prompt is to read a tome audiobook, so I am going to be listening to Before the Devil Breaks You. What did I say the title was? Whatever the title is, that's an audiobook, but I have another audiobook to add to the list, and that is The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. So this, again, I don't know much about, but Cody is reading it as part of her Discord read-along group, and it is one that I've seen a lot of people talk about before, and I have had an interest in it. I've forgotten what made me interested about it now, but I've seen a lot of people rave about it, so I'm going to read that one. The next prompt is to read a standalone tome, and for that, I'm going to be reusing the golden key because this is a standalone, thank goodness, because I don't know if I could do a series of books this thick. I do have a series of books this thick, and I'm avoiding it. Anyway, this one again. Then we have the prompt to read an adult tome. Now, this is an adult tome, but I've already included that twice. This is an adult tome, but let's talk about the 5th tome that I'm going to read, and that is Fool's Errand by Robin Hobb. So this is the first book of the 3rd trilogy within the realm of the Elderlings series. So the first book in the Tawny Man trilogy. I love the realm of the Elderlings. It has such a cool concept of dragons, and I just think Robin Hobb writes such interesting characters, and the way that everything all comes together, at least in the first 2 trilogies, has been amazing. So I'm hoping that this 3rd trilogy will be just as good. I also think we're going to get back into the story of Fitz and the Fool, and I love them both in the Assassins series, so I don't see why I won't love this one. And then the last prompt is to read a tome for Asian and Pacific Island Heritage Month. I don't have a book for this. I have some other Asian authored books on my TBR this month, but they're all shorter ones, not 500 pages. I thought about adding another one on specifically for this prompt, and I decided that that would be very unrealistic. So unfortunately not doing that prompt, but still I've managed to tick off 6 prompts, so hopefully I can get through those 5 tomes. Okay, so let's talk about the Because We Can Readathon. So I'm going to try and read the tomes that are part of the Because We Can Readathon in that Because We Can week, and then read the other ones on the wings, I guess. There's 7 prompts for the Because We Can Readathon, and the first one is to spin around and pick the first book you touch, and I am going to cheat because it doesn't say you can't. So I would like to read The Lies of Locke Lamora for this prompt. So we're just going to put it here. Ready? It doesn't even say close your eyes, does it? I didn't write close your eyes. Maybe it said it in the actual video. Anyway, we spin around and then we touch the first book. Oh, it's The Lies of Locke Lamora. Cool, I guess I'll read that. The second prompt is to read the first book in a series. The Lies of Locke Lamora fits for that as well. Then we have the next prompt, which is to read a book that starts with A. I couldn't fulfill this with any of my tomes, unfortunately, but I'm going to go with Arrival by Ted Chiang. It's not too short, and this is one that fits for Asian and Pacific Island Heritage Month. It's also one I've been meaning to get to for a long time because I want to watch this movie, but I can't until I read the book, or at least I don't want to. So I don't really know much about this except that there are some kind of aliens that come and this linguist is helping to communicate with them, and maybe there's some weird time stuff. Anyway, I'm excited to read it. Then we have read an author's first book, and The Lies of Locke Lamora fits for that as well. And then we have read a new to you author. I'm going to read The Lies of Locke Lamora because I've never read anything by Scott Lynch before. Cool. Okay, I'll stop that now. That's all the books that I'm using The Lies of Locke Lamora for, but it worked out quite well. The next prompt is to read a book with either the word one or the word first in the title, and I'm cheating a little bit for this one as well. So I have The Slug Queen Chronicles Season 1 on my Kindle, and I'm hoping to read that this month. I'll put the real picture here because the purples are really pretty. Unfortunately, my Kindle's all black and white. So I believe this is a story of a girl whose brother gets stolen by the Tooth Fairy because tooth fairies have decided instead of just stealing individual teeth, why not just steal the whole child? It should just be a cute little fun middle grade, hopefully a quick read, so I'm going to use that one. Then the final prompt is to read a book which has its first birthday in 2020, which means a book that was released in 2019. And for this, I'm going to go with How Rory Thorne Destroyed the Multiverse by Kay Eason. So I don't know much about this, that's what I always say, but I think it's some kind of space opera fairy tale with a multiverse element. I think that sounds amazing, so I'm really glad to have finally gotten the audiobook for this. There's quite a few audiobooks on these 2 TBRs, but for the Booktuber Readathon, my buddy's power is to get more points for spending more hours listening to audiobooks, so hopefully it'll work out well for that readathon as well. I will of course leave all the links to all 3 of those readathons that I've mentioned down in the description if you want to know more about them. But I think overall it means I need to read 8 books in the 2-week period, with 4 of them being in the middle week. Hopefully that's doable. Some of them are very big, so we will see how stressed I get, I guess. But it should also be a lot of fun. So let me know if you're participating in either of those readathons and how many books you're going to be reading for them. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're having a really wonderful day, and I will see you next time.